Hi, you're listening to Mr. Hutchings of Mr. Hutchings History. When you think of great civilizations before 1450, your mind might go to China's bustling Song dynasty, the Abbasid scholars of Baghdad, or Europe's rising cathedrals. But across the Atlantic, long before Columbus or the Spanish conquistadors, powerful civilizations flourished in the Americas. The Mississippians built earthen mounds the size of Egyptian pyramids. The Maya mapped the stars and devised complex calendars. The Aztecs turned a swampy lake into one of the largest cities in the world. And the Inca knit together a massive empire in the Andes with nothing more than roads and knotted strings. Today, we're exploring state building in the Americas between 1200 and 1450, a story of ingenuity, adaptation, and complex societies that rivaled those of Eurasia in sophistication. The Americas had been home to advanced civilizations for thousands of years. The Olmecs of Mesoamerica and the Chavín of the Andes laid early foundations of agriculture, religion, and art. Later, the Maya built monumental cities and developed written language. But by 1200, new states and empires were emerging, without horses, without oxen, and without large draft animals, and without the wheel for transport. These societies innovated in other ways. They relied on human labor, advanced agriculture, and complex political systems to organize millions of people. Importantly, the Americas developed independently from Afro-Eurasia. There was no Silk Road or Indian Ocean connection here. Yet their achievements show that advanced state building is a global human phenomenon. One of the earliest large-scale civilizations in North America was the Mississippian culture. Emerging around the 700s CE in the Mississippi River Valley, these societies built enormous earthen mounds, some for burial, some for ceremonies. The most famous site is Cahokia, near modern-day St. Louis, which may have housed 20,000 to 40,000 people, larger than London at the same time. Mississippian society was hierarchical, led by a chief known as the Great Sun, supported by nobles, priests, farmers, artisans, and slaves, which were often war captives. They practiced matrilineal descent, meaning inheritance passed through the mother's line. This is a striking contrast with patriarchal norms in most of Eurasia. By 1450, Cahokia was abandoned. Possible causes include climate change, flooding, soil exhaustion, or epidemic disease. By 1600, most Mississippian centers had disappeared. For AP purposes, the Mississippians show how complex societies existed in North America long before European contact. In the arid deserts of the American Southwest, peoples adapted with impressive innovation. The Chaco civilization constructed multi-room stone buildings, some 4 stories high, aligned with astronomical events. The Mesa Verde people carved multi-story dwellings into sheer cliff faces, offering both shelter and defense. Both cultures developed irrigation and water storage to survive in harsh environments. By the late 1200s, prolonged drought led to their decline, reminding us of the fragility of civilizations facing environmental stress. Moving south, the Maya civilization had reached its peak between 250 and 900 CE, but many city-states still thrived in the 1200s. The Maya lived in city-states, each ruled by a king claiming divine ancestry. Like Greece, these city-states often fought with one another. Wars focused less on land and more on captives, used in religious sacrifices. Commoners paid taxes and crops and labor, while elites sponsored monumental architecture and astronomy. The Maya developed advanced mathematics, including the concept of zero, a complex calendar system, and a form of hieroglyphic writing. They even discovered how to make rubber from local plants. Though many Maya cities declined before 1200, their cultural influence persisted, and Maya people still live across Central America today. Perhaps the most famous Mesoamerican empire of this period was the Aztec or Mexica Empire. Originally nomadic hunter gatherers, the Mexica migrated in central Mexico in the 13th century. In 1325, they founded their capital, Tenochtitlán, on the island in Lake Texcoco. The city was extraordinary, home to over 200,000 people, with towering pyramids, aqueducts supplying fresh water, and chinapas, or floating gardens, that dramatically increased food production. The Aztec system was a theocracy. Their emperor, known as the Great Speaker, was both political and a religious leader. Society was stratified. Nobles, priests, and warriors held the most power. Artisans and merchants followed. A special merchant class, the Pochateca, traded luxury goods like jade and feathers. At the bottom were peasants and enslaved people, often prisoners of war. Women played crucial roles, especially in textile production, which was vital to the economy. Some noble women received education and could influence politics through marriage alliances. Like China, the Aztecs relied on tribute from conquered peoples. Defeated states had to provide goods, labor, and soldiers. Tribute could include food, textiles, precious metals, or even human captives for sacrifice. The Aztecs believed the gods had sacrificed themselves to create the world. To maintain cosmic order, humans owed repayment. This took the form of human sacrifice and bloodletting, which shocked Spanish observers who came later. Temples like the Templo Mayor in Tenochtitlan were built for rituals and sacrifices. By the late 1400s, resentment grew among subject peoples. Combined with internal divisions and technological disadvantages, this left the Aztec vulnerable. When the Spanish arrived in 1519, the Spanish exploited these weaknesses to topple the empire. South America's greatest empire was the Inca, or the Tawanitsuyu. Founded by Pachacuti in 1438, the Inca rapidly expanded along the Andes, creating an empire stretching 2,500 miles from Ecuador to Chile. At its height, it ruled perhaps 10 million people. Unlike the tribute system of the Aztecs, the Inca used the mita system, a labor tax requiring subjects to work on state projects such as farming, building roads, or serving in the military. The Inca Empire was divided into four provinces, each overseen by a governor and bureaucracy. The emperor, known as the Sapa Inca, was considered a descendant of the sun god Inti. The Inca practiced ancestor veneration. Dead rulers were preserved as mummies, consulted for decisions, and still owned property. The Temple of the Sun in Cuzco was the religious heart of the Incan Empire. They also practiced animism, believing sacred spirits, or huaca, inhabited natural features like mountains or rivers. The Inca built an impressive road system, the Carpanan, stretching 25,000 miles across rugged terrain. Messengers called Chasqui ran these roads to deliver messages. They created quipu, knotted strings used to record data like tribute or census information. Agricultural innovations included terrace farming and waru raised beds with irrigation canals. The Inca Empire did begin a decline. Civil war broke out after the death of Huayna Capac around 1525. This internal weakness coincided with the arrival of the Spanish under Francisco Pizarro, who conquered the Inca Empire in 1532. What do we learn when we compare these American civilizations? They had complex state systems. Like Afro-Eurasia, the Americas developed centralized governments and tribute systems. The Aztecs used military conquest and tribute, while the Inca used labor taxation. In religion and state power, leaders often claimed divine legitimacy. The Aztec great speaker as high priest, the Inca Sapa, Inca as son of the sun. For all of them, religion justified political authority. They had innovation without Eurasian tools. Without horses, oxen, or the wheel, these societies innovated with chanapas, terraces, quipu, and monumental architecture. They were adaptive to the environment, from desert irrigation in Mesa Verde to mountain farming in the Andes. American civilizations adapted to their diverse landscapes with creativity. The Americas between 1200 and 1450 demonstrate that state building was not unique to Eurasia. Civilizations across the world independently developed advanced political systems, economies, and cultures. For AP exam purposes, the Aztec and Inca empires are especially important as examples of governance, labor systems, and belief systems. Comparing them to Afro-Eurasian empires helps students see both similarities and distinctivenesses. Before Europeans ever set foot in the Americas, the hemisphere was alive with powerful civilizations, creative, organized, and dynamic. Their legacies remain visible today in language, architecture, agriculture, and culture. In our next lecture, we'll journey to Africa, where kingdoms like Mali, Zimbabwe, and Ethiopia connected to the wider world through trade, Islam, and oral traditions. Until then, stay curious because history matters.